Hey guys, my name's Ivor Margerison. I'm a wedding planner and officiant who specializes in small weddings. I'm the founder of microweddings.org, the author of the book How to Plan Your Own Micro Wedding, and I've helped over 1,000 couples put together small weddings. This is what I specialize in, this is what I have experience with, and today I'm going to be sharing some of that information with you to give you just a broad idea of what a micro wedding is, to decide if it's right for you, and give you some general overview of what it would take to plan your own micro wedding. So to start things off, what is a micro wedding versus an elopement versus a tiny wedding? There's a lot of terminology these days. The big thing to think about with a micro wedding or any version of a smaller wedding is that you're not going to do a traditional venue generally. So a traditional wedding is at a venue. You do the ceremony, you have a reception. The reception has a dinner and a dance floor. And this is all in one place, okay? And there's a lot of logistics to that to find a place that can accommodate both. And usually they're very expensive and they work better for big groups. So a micro wedding is usually less than 60 people, but a micro wedding could have 3 or 4 people there. It could just be the couple. It's very, very loose, but generally the framework is going to be the same. You need to find a nice place to do the ceremony. That can be a beach, it can be a park, it can be a mountaintop, or whatever the case. You're going to go do a short ceremony, have an officiant, have your friends and family there, do a quick ceremony, kiss, take some photos, and then you're going to go somewhere for dinner afterwards. Now, this is the part that's usually a lot different. Say you got 20 people, say you got 6 people, even 30, 40 people, you might not really want like a DJ and a dance floor. So you don't need a traditional venue. Oftentimes, you're just going to go to a restaurant for dinner, maybe get a private room. Maybe you're going to go to a rental home, bring in a private chef, and maybe the rooftop at a brewery. These things are a lot more open because you're not really planning like a party reception. It's really just kind of more of like a private dinner with your closer friends and family. So that's really going to open up your options of where you're going after the ceremony. But again, that's really what it looks like. A ceremony and a dinner or a reception, whatever you want to call it. Now, let's go through my book here. My book is split into 5 parts. Okay, so the book, when it comes down to planning a micro wedding, we got the places, we got the people. Let me look at my notes. Say them in different order sometimes. Places, people, ceremony, legal stuff, little stuff. Okay, so let's talk about the places first. Now, like we just mentioned, the places are the ceremony and the reception. So these places are going to be, it really depends on where you are. Obviously, if you're in Colorado, you're going to use a mountain instead of a beach. But again, just kind of think about where is nice. It's really, you can prioritize photos. That's the big thing here. Now, you might want some privacy. You probably don't want to be at a dog park. Depending on the size of the group, there may be some permits involved. So that can get a little bit tricky. But like I said, you need a place where 20 people can gather, exchange some vows, take some photos. The options are pretty much endless. Now, when it comes to dinner, again, I've kind of already gone over that. Rental homes, a nice restaurant, a brewery, a winery. You guys get the idea. It's really not, you don't need to think who can accommodate a reception. Think, where can we go have a nice private dinner? So we got the ceremony, we got the reception, and that's kind of the big aspects to it. Now, say you get above 40 people. Really the question is, do you want a dance floor? Do you want to have a party with a DJ? Now we're talking about wedding venues, a place that can accommodate both the ceremony and the reception. These are going to be more difficult with a small group because most of them are going to be for 100 people and they're going to have minimums. They're going to say, yeah, sure, we'll rent it to your group of 30, but you're going to have to pay the minimum and you're going to be paying for 100. Obviously, that's the whole point of the micro wedding usually is to save money. So trying to do a traditional wedding, a traditional venue with less people can be, most places are going to be unaccommodating. It can be quite expensive, but there are some exceptions to that. And the biggest thing is to look for weekdays, off season, stuff like that. If you say, hey, are you available on a Saturday in June to accommodate our small group? The venue's not even going to respond to your email. But, if you say, hey, we're flexible with the Tuesday morning, they're open anyway, so they might be more accommodating. So keep that in mind if you are going the more traditional route. If you are on a budget, try to work with those. Try to not compete with traditional weddings. So moving on to the people. Now the people are the vendors. When you say vendor, people aren't familiar with that word, but a wedding vendor is basically the professionals who are making your day work. So the big ones with a small wedding, first off, is going to be the officiant. That's the guy who leads the ceremony. Now, a lot of people think of this as the pastor or the minister. That's a little bit more traditional. You can take a more contemporary route. Most professional officiants, including myself, are not practicing religious leaders. We are just we have the legal credentials to officiate a wedding and sign off on the marriage license. So that's the first big one. You want someone up there leading the ceremony. Now, there is an exception to that. With a big wedding, there's kind of a lot going on. It can be nice to have a professional. With a small wedding, it's kind of nice. You can have a friend or family member officiate the wedding. I actually have a guide. It's $50. How to officiate a wedding. Microweddings.org. If you want to check it out, it's really, really simple. I'll even hop on a phone call with your friend or family member, kind of talk them through it. I give them a sample script, set them up for it. It's really pretty straightforward. A small, small contemporary informal ceremony like this. It's short, it's quick, and having a friend or family member can actually add a nice personal touch. Now, as far as is it legal for them, it's legal for anyone to lead a ceremony. The question is, can they sign the marriage license? And we'll get to that here at the end of the video. But generally speaking, you can split those two things up. You can do a ceremony with your friend or family member, then you can go sign the license later if they are not legally able to sign it. So the ceremony, the officiant, that's the first big one. Now, he's the guy leading the ceremony. You got to have someone up there, kind of. You could kind of do it yourself, but I recommend having an officiant or a friend or family member officiate. The next one, big one, obviously, is the photographer. These are kind of the bread and butter of a micro wedding. You got your officiant, you got your photographer. Hopefully, they're kind of familiar with the spot. They know how small weddings work. They're going to kind of help guide you, set you up, tell your uncle where to stand, that kind of stuff. Photographer, I kind of get into more detail into this in more videos and in my book as well, but with each vendor, what you should be looking for. Photographer's pretty simple. Go on Instagram, find someone with photos that you like. Simple as that. Now, with other vendors, you got things like a florist is pretty common. You might want to have a bouquet. You got hair and makeup stylist if you want to have that professionally done. Maybe a videographer. Maybe you want to have someone play a violin. This can go on and on and on. But you guys get the idea. Those are the people that come together. The photographer, the officiant, kind of the main ones for a small wedding. Now, the ceremony itself, what's it look like? It looks like maybe you've been to a wedding that's kind of similar, but basically you and your fiance are going to be up there. You can do a little processional, walk down the aisle if you want, even if it's just in the park. You can play a song on a Bluetooth speaker. You can, the dad can give away the bride or whatever else you want to follow or do. You can do all those things. You can include all of those things. You go up there. You do a little ceremony. The officiant's going to talk about the two of you, going to talk about love, going to talk about why we're here. The two of you are going to exchange vows, make promises to each other. The foundations of your marriage is really what these are meant to be. You're going to exchange rings. You're going to say, I do, and you're going to kiss. And it's really as simple as that. And the officiant is the one who's going to kind of help, create whatever ceremony you want. There's no rules to this. There's all sorts of cool things you can add into a wedding ceremony. There's whiskey blending and time capsules and all sorts of crazy stuff. So you can get really, really creative with your ceremony. And that's the number one thing here is there's no rules. You can kind of do whatever you want with the entire day, realistically. So the legal stuff, I touched on this a second ago. The legal stuff, generally speaking, your officiant's going to help you with that. Each state is going to be different. You need to get a marriage license and you need to sign it and file it. Now, every state, like I said, is going to be different. Some are going to require a waiting period. They're going to require witnesses to sign. The officiant has to be registered with the state. There's all sorts of different stuff. So basically, call your local county clerk. Clerk and recorder is usually who does it. Just call them up and say, hey, we want to get a marriage license. What do we need to do? Is there a waiting period? Who needs to sign it? They'll tell you. But realistically, it's all pretty simple. And again, if you're going to have your friend officiate, just call them up and say, hey, we're going to have a friend lead the ceremony. What do we have to do? And they'll say, maybe you have to go in and have a judge sign the license, whatever the case. There's always a way. They get asked this question 10,000 times a day. There's a very, very simple answer. You're going to pay like $40 and you can become legally married. Super easy. In America, in most states, as far as I know, for the most part. Disclaimer. This is not legal advice. That's what my lawyer told me to say. So anyway, that's the marriage license aspect of it. But the big thing to keep in mind is that the legal part can be totally separated from the rest of the day. It's not like, oh, if we're up there, if we don't exchange rings, is it still legal? Just the ceremony is here. You can have Daffy Duck go up there and do a whiskey shooting ceremony with you. And then you can come over here and sign the license and get legally married. Separate the two things, becomes really, really simple. Do whatever you want at your ceremony. The little stuff with a micro wedding, it's kind of more of like transportation. Are we getting a party bus to go to the top of the mountain? Are we all going to ride mountain bikes? Could be fun, maybe kayak. And then you also want to think about your weekend a little bit more. Even with a big wedding, there's always those things to consider. The rehearsal dinner, the next morning brunch. With a micro wedding, there's less people, so this should all just be easier. But you might want to think if everyone's going out somewhere, if this is a destination wedding, what are you doing the night before? Where's everyone going to have dinner? You want a place where everyone can mingle. After the ceremony, obviously, same kind of thing. So the little stuff can kind of go in all different directions. But that's kind of, the 5 main things that my book gets into. And we break down each one of those aspects a little bit more. Generally speaking, as you pursue the planning process for a micro wedding, you'll realize that so much of the stuff stuff you're seeing and reading doesn't really apply to you. You might see photographers who have 12-hour minimums and stuff like that. So the whole industry is built around really, really big weddings. So it's kind of hard to break outside of that. But with the right kind of tips and tricks, when you learn where to look and what to ask, it can actually become pretty simple. So again, in my videos, we're going to be breaking down each of these chapters even further. So be sure to check those out. Shameless self-promotion. If you do want to get your hands on the book, it's on Amazon, How to Plan Your Own Micro Wedding, or you can go to microweddings.org. Along with the book and the breakdown of the guides, I also have a bunch of digital resources with the book. So you get like a checklist and a worksheet and a to-do list and a day of, and there's all these different things for you to work through and kind of fill out as you go to give you a little bit of direction. The book's like $20 on Amazon. So obviously that doesn't hurt. A little bit more shameless self-promotion. If you really want to keep things simple, I have my own company based in Colorado called Colorado Micro Weddings, coloradomicroweddings.com. If you come out here, I can do everything for you. Depends on the size of the group, what you're looking for. It usually ends up being about $1,000, maybe $1,500, photographer, officiant, flowers, hair and makeup. We go to the top of a mountain. We have a beautiful little ceremony. You get epic photos. You go to a nice dinner afterwards. It's really, really pretty simple. I can put together a whole wedding like that within a couple days. Very little stress. Can be a lot of fun. Beautiful photos, beautiful videos. Anyway, that's it, guys. So I'm going to end this video now, but be sure to check out the other videos if you're interested. Tons more information to come. If you did enjoy this video, please like and subscribe. I know it's annoying to ask, but it's free for you, and it helps me immensely. Helps me create more content like this for you guys. Thanks so much for stopping by. See you next time.